Welcome back, everybody, to the All We Do Is Talk podcast, bringing you some NBA talk today. Season tips off tomorrow. Can't wait. Nets getting that championship season ready to get started. And I think Moody's probably thinking the Lakers getting ready to get the championship season started. But two of the best teams opening up, Nets versus Bucks. The two teams I thought were the best teams in the whole league last year to open up on tip-off. The Bucks coming off a championship, and Lakers going against the Golden State Warriors in the rematch of a play-in game. So I bet all the Western Conference playoff teams are happy to hear that they got to push aside for two teams that barely made the playoffs.
The two teams that matter. I really only one.
The two players that matter, except for Luka and Jokic. But yeah, the two biggest players in the Western Conference. But Christian's here with us. Welcome back, Christian. How you doing today?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. You forgot to mention the nation's capital, Washington Wizards. So,
did you forget Isaiah? Did you omit the nation's capital?
No, I knew Christian would bring him into the conversation. We didn't need to talk about him, but so much. But
get to that.
Yeah, it's all good, Christian. Last time we brought y'all our top 15 players list, top 15 under 25 players list. Go ahead and check that out. We'll link that somewhere in this video. But today we're going to give you give our predictions for the upcoming NBA season. We'll give you some standings predictions, and we'll give you some award predictions. So I guess I'll start first since the Nets tip off tomorrow, and I'll go over a couple. We'll go East first, and then we'll go to the West. So for the East, I'm projecting the Bucks to be the 1 seed. I think they're going to be really confident coming off the championship. And we've seen the Bucks run through the East before. As long as they stay healthy, I'm pretty high on them. I think they're a top 4 team in the NBA. At 2, I've got my Brooklyn Nets, probably doing a little bit more load management, but I think they'll, as we saw last year, they will also bust all through the East. I'm really high on the Nets. I think they're the best team in the league, but that's left to be proven. At 3, I'm going to go out on a limb and just trust the talent, even though they've got a new coach. I'm going to go with the Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, the combo will carry him through. If they make another jump, both have been making rational jumps every year, so I expect them to make another jump. So Marcus Smart's still there. Dennis Schroeder, who we joke about.
The bag fumbler.
But
thank you, bro. I appreciate you.
He's the 6th man on their team probably this year. Hopefully he doesn't mess up the chemistry because we know what Dennis Schroeder thinks about himself. So at 4, I'm going to go with the team that I'm actually lower on. I'm high on the Celtics, but I'm lower on 4. But I'm going to give them their respect. I have 4. I have the Miami Heat, bringing in Kyle Lowry, which is weird. It's been years since we've seen Kyle Lowry now in Toronto, back to the Houston days when he was fat Kyle Lowry. But Jimmy Butler's a year older. Bam's probably going to become the best player on this team within the next few years and take over as a franchise player if he hasn't already. And hopefully Tyler Hero can recover and have a good season. At number 5, I have a team that I'm really high on. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bulls. Love the move to bring in Lonzo and Alex Caruso to up your defensive backcourt, especially when you got to play the Nets, who have Kyrie, and James Harden mostly right now for sure. And I also like the signing of bringing DeMar DeRozan on board, even though I don't think they'll use him correctly. I would use DeMar DeRozan as my Andre Iguodala back when he was on Golden State type of bench player, but I think they'll force him into that starting lineup, and we'll see how that goes. At 6, I have the Atlanta Hawks falling back down to earth just because I think the East is that strong, and I just think
weren't they 6 last year?
But they're gonna think they're gonna improve. It's gonna be they might have the same type of seasons next year, more consistent coming out, but I just think the East is that strong now, and I just don't think they have good depth pieces. I don't think they have enough all-star talent on their team to carry them against a couple teams in front of them that all might have a couple all-stars, which less to be seen with the Bulls if they could get a second guy. At 7, I have the team that I just don't know anything about because it's the 76ers. Saw Ben Simmons today moping around at practice. They've got him tied down and forcing him to work for them, but got to make that money. And his co-hosts blamed him for losing the playoff game, and then his coach did, even though it was all, they all played a part, but they all threw the blame on him. So I'm sure those are great relationships there in Philly. And I don't root for Philly. So hopefully they send us Ben Simmons for Kyrie, problem for problem, create a better rivalry. At number 8, I'm going to go with the talent of the Indiana Pacers to lock up what would have been a playoff spot, but now that they have the play-in, they'll have to play in again. Hopefully they like their coach. I actually like their coach a lot. I forgot for a minute that Rick Carlisle is their coach. They just re-signed Brogdon today. He's one of the best two-way point. He's one of those Drew Holiday underrated type of point guards. I like Sabonis enough. I like Miles Turner. If we ever find out TJ Warren will return, that remains to be seen. But they got good talent. At number 9, I'm gonna go with the Knicks falling back to earth. Unfortunately for
what a hard
them,
crash for the Knicks.
because I just don't think they brought in enough talent to match the stars, and people will caught up in the second half of the season. People caught up to them. We'll see if they could just out hustle, out coach people this year when there's more talented teams. And at number 10, barely scraping by the Cavs, who I think are just a year away. I'm gonna go with the Hornets, locking up the same spot that they had last year. They'll be the 10th seed. They might have the best young core of talent behind the Cavs, because I think the Cavs actually have the best young core of talent. So it'll be a nice race at the bottom there for those guys. But that's my list. So I go Bucks 1, Nets 2, Celtics 3, Heat 4, Bulls 5, Hawks 6, 76ers at 7, Pacers 8, Knicks and Hornets rounding out the play-in tournament. That is going to be a shame for some teams if the Sixers are there.
Well, I think the Eastern Conference is definitely as strong as it's ever been before.
Strongest in our lifetime, for sure.
Yeah, and you and I had the exact same 10 teams. Now, we got a bit different orders, but I think it's pretty clear to see what 10 teams are like the playoff contenders, and then like the rest of the guys. You know, the rest of the
Washington football team.
Washington basketball.
The Washington basketball team, the Hawks, and those. I mean, not the Hawks. The
other teams in that South.
other teams in that terrible
Magic
division.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll just go ahead and get going through my list. At number 1 and 2, I think it's pretty chalk. Milwaukee, they're gonna have that championship confidence, that championship bump, and all their guys are gonna be they're gonna be motivated to try to go back to back. Giannis is young in his prime. All those guys are gonna play 75 plus games barring injury.
Drew Holiday is known to be.
Yeah, it's like barring injury. Drew Holiday might miss a few, but overall, you expect those guys to
Even Chisel back.
That's true as well. You expect those guys to be pretty reared up and ready to go, and they're along with number 2, the Brooklyn Nets, are a tier above the rest of the Eastern Conference. So you expect them to be able to win to be at the top 2 spots pretty easily. At number 3, I disagree with you about the fall of Atlanta. I think Atlanta's going to use that confidence from last year in that playoff run to make a jump. They were actually really unhealthy last year, considering at the end of the year they were missing a bunch of their super talented wings. I think Atlanta, with a healthy year this year, will be the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. I love what Trae Young's doing, and I think his style of play is sustainable in today's NBA. The high pick and roll, he can just make play after play after play. If the team around him continues to develop, I'm expecting a pretty massive jump from John Collins. If he can become a proper co-star for Trae Young, I think Atlanta can shoot to the moon.
And they got Capella.
And they got Capella too, who's really, really solid 5-man. At number 4, I'll take the Boston Celtics. They're just really like Tatum and Brown are just too talented for them to be anything
and
lower. And smart as well as they're the all playing role player. As long as they have those guys, they're going to be a playoff team, and I think those guys can stay healthy. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with the new coaching, the guy from Brooklyn, but they all love him from Team USA. So you think it'll go well, but you always have to wait and see on that. But they have enough talent to be a top 4 seed in the East. At number 5, I have the Miami Heat. Disappointing into last year, but they're a team that still has championship mentality. Kyle Lowry is bringing some more veteran championship experience. Their biggest thing is going to be like the Lakers in the West, is can they just get through the whole season healthy? They have a few guys, Jimmy Butler, Bam, Kyle, who deal with injuries on a semi-regular basis in the regular season. Can they continue to survive that to make it to the playoffs without having to see the Bucks in the first round? Because I think that was their downfall last year.
They got them first.
At number 6, I'll take the New York Knicks. This is still, they were the 4 seed last year. I dropped down to 6 this year. I think this is a more responsible platform for them to be at. I also want the rematch of Ice Trae against the New York Knicks at the Garden, so got to make that happen. But I think the Knicks will still be a contender for the playoffs. Thibodeau coaches playoff teams on a regular basis. Those guys are going to play 40 minutes a night to make sure they're beating the bad teams every night, and that'll help them rack up enough wins to be able to be comfortably in the playoffs. At number 7, I agree with you, Isaiah. The Philadelphia 76ers, you just don't know where to slot them. But the way Ben Simmons was going on with the attitude just doesn't make you feel any better about it. He's not going to play the whole season for them. Either he'll just walk away again after he gets a couple of checks, or they'll trade him away at some point. That's a disaster waiting to happen. But hopefully
it stays that way.
Hopefully it stays that way. It doesn't really matter to me. They're in the East, not a threat. So it's unfortunate for them. We'll see what value they can get for Ben Simmons. At number 8, I think the Charlotte Hornets, with some more additions of talent with like Kelly Oubre to help add to a very, very deep wing group they have over there, which LaMelo Ball operating at the top, making all the plays for everybody else. Terry Rozier obviously is really good too. They drafted this guy James Bouknight, who I think is going to be a really good 6-man type of player for them coming off the bench.
The big man they got that I like too. I like the big man they got too.
So I think the Charlotte Hornets have had back to back really good drafts, some good free agency signings,
like deep, like 2 or 3 players. Yeah,
and I think they're really well coached. I think they're really well coached as well. They're just young. Their best players are young. So as those guys get better, I think they'll move up in the Eastern Conference slowly. But for right now, I'll give them the 8th seed. At number 9, I'll take the Chicago Bulls. I don't like the fit of Levine and DeRozan and Lonzo, and it's Vucevic. I love, I love Caruso. All the love in the world for Caruso. It's pain watching him with a new team, but I don't see how they're really going to be stopping teams in the Eastern Conference from scoring at will. And unless Zach LaVine becomes this super efficient scorer, unless DeMar DeRozan suddenly becomes a 3-point shooter because he's going to be playing more off-ball spot up than he's ever has in his career, because like you said, they're going to force him into that starting lineup. I don't think they're really that well coached with Fred Hoiberg. So
Billy Donovan,
whatever, the guy from Oklahoma City.
He got to the conference finals.
I don't really like him either.
Yeah. We'll find out about him at least.
So the Bulls went all in on trying to be a playing team. That's what it looks like to me, and we'll see if they can make it happen. And at number 10, rounding it out, the Indiana Pacers. They're the 10th best team in the Eastern Conference. I think that's the best way to describe them. At worst, they're always going to be in the mix for the playoff spot. Sabonis is an all-star. Malcolm Brogdon is back. They can hopefully get some good. Forget about TJ Warren. We may never see him again. But Karis LeVert, they also have him in-house.
They might trade him up here.
Miles Turner is also in-house. So they have a really good roster, and they've actually upgraded the head coaching position pretty massively with Rick Carlisle, so that'll make them better as well. So even if they're the 10th seed in the East, they could be a team that could get into the playoffs by winning a couple games. So I'll just go through it one more time. I got the Bucks at 1, the Nets at 2, the Hawks at 3, the Celtics at 4, the Heat at 5, the Knicks at 6, the Sixers at 7, the Hornets at 8, and the Bulls and Pacers at 0. Play-in teams.
Okay. Mine's pretty similar to you guys. Of course, I'll just start down the list. So, of course, I have number 1, similar to you guys. Bucks as number 1. Who's really stopping Giannis from that point? Seeing them in championship last year, amazing defensively wise, and offensively, of course, a good amount of shooters. And Giannis, especially working on his shot, is looking quite impressive preseason. So we'll see that during the regular season. For number 2, of course, the second biggest team on the East, the Nets. Of course, championship heavy hitters. Even without Kyrie, I think Kevin Durant and James Harden combined can get it done. We'll see in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Bucks. That's obviously going to be the matchup. Well, I believe it's going to be matchup, but
yeah.
We'll see.
Hopefully the conference finals and not the second round.
So for my third team, I would say Boston Celtics. As a young core, obviously Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, the biggest stars of the team. But I do like Carson Edwards coming off the bench also. And Dennis Schroeder is even an addition too. But I just think together they always play as a good team. They're never really bad, and they do progress each year. So it's clearly you can see it in their game as well. So I think next season we'll obviously see them a little better than what they did last year. For my number 4, I have the Atlanta Hawks. Obviously, seeing their performance last year was quite impressive. Trae Young. I think you talked about Clint Capella a little bit, Moody, but just you can see the chemistry getting better as well over the years. Who else do they have? Zach Collins. I think you talked about him too.
We didn't talk about Gallinari or Kevin Huerter though. Surprisingly,
they're super deep.
And
they're super deep.
Reddish and who's the
Huerter? I'm not Huerter. Hunter.
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 They are deep. They are deep, but they're really young still. They are really young still.
I just feel like they're a heavy hitter, but a slept on heavy hitter just because they're not as lethal as the Knicks and Bucks. But we'll definitely see them next season. A lot of good shooters, so we'll see that. After them, I actually have the Philadelphia 76ers. You know, we talked about the Ben Simmons drama, of course, a dumpster fire right now, but I do have faith that they will receive a good trade package for Ben, hopefully another all-star. So I think with an actual guard, that'll help. It'll be more of a fit with Embiid, probably give him more space in the paint. So we'll see how that goes because, you know, they could make a terrible trade, receive a couple 2 or 3 C. I've seen it all before. I know you guys have too, so I don't know where that go. So that was number 5. Number 6, I have Chicago Bulls. Like you said, Moody, I do think their chemistry, their fit kind of doesn't match, but I think their passing and transition and just their overall scoring on the run just looks amazing, especially that their guards have high IQs, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso. They can throw the lobs whenever it's open. So I definitely think that'll help them, especially with
RP Kobe White.
He sucks. He can't play. They drafted him at 60, just can't play.
They just put him immediately on the side. But after Chicago Bulls, I have Miami Heat. As we all know, you know, Miami Heat has a lot of good shooters. They do play small ball. Probably Bam is going to be their most defensive player. But I'm excited to see how Kyle Lowry fits in that team, especially, you know, with Jimmy Butler, both dominant ball handlers. So, you know, I look forward to seeing that. But that is my number 7. Yeah. So my number 8 team, I have the Charlotte Hornets. As a young team, you know, they're still developing. Like we did talk about LaMelo Ball, Kelly Oubre, they actually just recently got not too long ago. So I think he's a good piece, especially for, you know, the passing that they all focus on, the lobs everyone has, especially with Miles Bridges. So, you know, I look forward to seeing that. I just think they're still a little too young. Maybe with some experience they could get up there, but that's my 8th seed. You know, it's still a good team on the East, just not an elite team. For my number 9.
We didn't even bring up that they have Gordon Hayward still.
Yeah, and Terry Rozier too. I do like Terry Rozier.
Yeah.
So that's a good piece for them. And, you know, how could we forget PJ Tucker, of course? But other than that, my 9 seed.
You mean PJ Washington. PJ
Washington, I meant, yeah. The Mr. Finesse. But for my 9 seed, I chose the New York Knicks, just because I do see them regressing. They did get Derrick Rose as their 6th man over the offseason, so, you know, I think that'll help them. Just, we all know how the Knicks are eventually. You know, they're not really a team to have hope in, but I do like how Julius Randle has handled himself. You know, scoring a good amount, especially. You know, I really don't like how RJ Barrett's been handling himself either. Just defensive wise, he hasn't really been the best choice for them. But, you know, I'll just continue from there. I just see them going downhill. So that's
not many great players from that draft, other than the top 2, and even the top 1 has been disappointing. It's been a pretty disappointing draft.
Oh, they do have Obi.
I
do like Obi from them.
I think Garland's about to blow up, though.
Yeah, that's why I did like him. All right, Christian, your 10.
My 10th is obviously my team.
You know who it is?
Washington Wizards. I think with enough, you know, it's not the best team. All-star Bradley Beal, who our 2nd best player would probably be Rui. But, you know.
And Denny.
Kuzma. Y'all gonna stop disrespecting NBA champion Kyle Kuzma. He's coming to get y'all 20 points a game.
Now, I'm more excited about Montrezl Harrell coming off the bench. We'll see how dominant he is.
Who's excited about Kyle Kuzma? But yeah, Rui and Denny. And Spencer Dinwiddie. We're not going to ignore Spencer Dinwiddie.
We can Spencer Dinwiddie for sure. I think he'll be good.
Haven't seen him in a while. Damn, would have liked to have him in the playoffs. Wow, forgot about
that's my best case scenario for Wizards. 10 seed, possibly fighting for that 18. So we'll see in this future. So I'll just go over my whole list again. So it's Bucks for number 1, Nets number 2, Celtics 3, Hawks number 4, 76ers number 5, Chicago Bulls number 6, Heat for 7, Hornets for 8, Knicks for 9, and then Wizards for 10.
I mean, with the exception of you putting the Wizards into the rankings, it was clear that we all had the same 9 consensus teams.
Mm-hmm.
We could debate the
Pacers and the Wizards, I think, were the difference that we had in our teams.
Oh, because Christian said on the page.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, any other? Me and Christian were higher on the Chicago. I do believe that I like their transition offense and the way they're going to run the floor, and I do like, but I am scared of how they're going to use DeMar DeRozan because I just don't believe he does fit in a isocentric. Because he'll make it more isocentric because they already have Levine, who's going to be doing the same thing, and neither of them are efficient, crazy 3-point shooters. So that remains to be said, and their coaching is questionable. But I do like the talent of Lonzo and Caruso turning defense into offense for them more often than not, and I think they'll beat up on bad teams. Moody was low on the Bulls.
What?
But it all looked like we all had the same tiers, that we had the Nets and Bucks on the top tier, and then we had that tier of Celtics, Heats, Hawks, and then everybody else.
With the Philly wild card.
With the Philly wild. I just
want to say, going back to Bulls, I do like that they added Vucevic as well. So
from last year, yeah. He's probably the best player on the team, if we're being real. So they do have two All-Stars.
They do have 2 All-Stars.
They do have 2 All-Stars. Yeah. I forgot about Vucevic, but yeah. He's looked terrible in the preseason, though, unfortunately.
I gotta see them put that together.
I don't know how he fits with that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, who's defending? But outside of Patrick Williams, who's defending for that team?
Patrick Williams.
I like Patrick Williams and Lonzo. The more money you get, the less defense gets played. So you just gotta wait. The jumper starts falling. You're not gonna start trying to play defense.
They're the wild card of the.
They had the highest range of things that could happen to them, I think.
Yeah. Anything else to say about the East other than who are you predicting to win the East this year?
Clearly the Brooklyn Nets. They would have won it last year if Kevin Durant wore a shoe size smaller.
And that's with 2 injuries.
I don't think Kyrie's showing up for them this year. Either he sits out the whole year or he gets traded. So I'm not waiting for that savior. We can see if Ben Simmons will come in, whatever. But either way, they're better than the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks won that title last year because despite their incompetence.
Kevin Durant wore a shoe size too big.
Yeah, okay. But even that, like, the series shouldn't have been as competitive as it was, despite with y'all injuries. But they allowed y'all to hang in it because their coach is kind of stupid.
Kevin Durant had that game that they wasn't.
Because Giannis Antetokounmpo wasn't guarding them. Because they said PJ Tucker go take that smoke, play after play after play. PJ Tucker not being around might be the best thing that ever happened to the Milwaukee Bucks.
He's on Miami now.
It'll force them to use Giannis Antetokounmpo or even Chris Middleton to guard Kevin Durant. But either way, I think Brooklyn's the best team in the East. They should be able to win the Eastern Conference, but it will be a battle between them and Milwaukee in the conference finals.
I will take the Nets, of course, and I believe that either Kyrie will be forced to come back and play for us, or we'll trade him for something that will play for us. So I think as long as they don't have to go the whole season without Kyrie, and even though Paul Millsap's now on board, Patty Mills, 2 playoff Ps in one off season. It'll be tough. If Kyrie doesn't come back, but it'll be tougher if Kyrie doesn't come back. If they get Kyrie or a piece in exchange for Kyrie, they'll probably run away with the East as long as they stay healthy. Health's the only thing keeping them from winning the East. And Christian, you go ahead and agree one last time with us about the Nets winning the East?
Yep, I actually agree with all of you. So I do see the Nets winning as well. But I actually do want to see more, help from Mr. Joe Buckets, Joe Harris in the playoffs.
He was good in the regular season.
That don't matter.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter at all. Once playoffs come around, especially all-stars such as James Harden, we see them play, a different type of game. So, I do see Kevin Durant carrying them, but not by a lot. Just I do want to see more help from the rest of the team. But I'm excited to see, this playoffs. Season starts soon, so hopefully.
All right, I got a question. If a team that wasn't the Bucks or the Nets could win the East, who would y'all pick?
Maybe I would. Depending on 76ers, what they get for Ben.
That's exactly what I was looking at. I'm a cop out. I'll say the 76ers. That's the only way That's the only
I'm
other team I see
excited
coming out.
Yeah, if they get an All-Star for Ben Simmons, because
I'm gonna take Atlanta.
You gonna take Atlanta?
I'll take Atlanta. I think if there's an Eastern Conference, I think they're the third best team in the Eastern Conference. I think if there's a team who could take advantage of some injuries of one of the top two teams and finesse one of them in a random 7-game series, I think it's the Hawks, because I think Trae Young has an unstoppable type of game where his ability to shoot from 30 feet or get to the rim is just something that it doesn't have a defense for it. And the bevy of wings, they're the only team in the East, I think, with the combination of wings that you can throw at a Kevin Durant, at a Giannis Antetokounmpo, James Harden, Chris Middleton. They have guys who could you could throw bodies at them for a 7-game series, try to wear them out, and hope Trae Young can match. But that's a far-fetched situation, of course.
I take the Celtics over the Hawks, but if I didn't take the Sixers, I'd take the Celtics. But I
can't pick the Celtics to win.
I think it's pretty chalk that it's going to be either the Nets or the Bucks.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the West. Go ahead, Moody. Hit us with the list.
All right, Western Conference playoff predictions. I think number 1 and 2 this year will be exactly the same as number 1 and 2 last year, because they're the two tier 2 teams that are going to take the regular season too seriously. So at number 1, I'll have the Phoenix Suns as your number 1 seed. I think coming off the finals loss last year, they're going to be highly motivated to bounce back and show that last year wasn't a fluke. I think they'll all take the regular season very, very seriously, trying to get home court advantage. So the finals have to run through the Western Conference has to run through Phoenix. I expect a big season from Devin Booker as he takes over as that clear best player on the team, as one of the best players in the league. And number 2, I'll take the Utah Jazz. They've got the best chemistry of any team in the NBA, probably.
Best coach, probably, too.
I have some questions about him after that playoff performance last year. I like Quinn Snyder, but he has shown that he is kind of stubborn with his system. I think that system works great in the regular season. I expect it to continue to work great this year. And honestly, I don't think the Western Conference is that good, especially in terms of like deep teams with the injuries that the couple of the contenders are dealing with. So I'll take Utah at 2. At number 3, I'll take my LA Lakers. This doesn't matter. I don't care who they have to play or where they have to play. This is the best team in the Western Conference. But I don't expect them to take the regular season that seriously, the same way it was last year, although they're a little more rested. But LeBron being in his 19th year, Westbrook being in his 10th year, we got a bunch of 30+. Everyone knows the age thing. So these guys aren't good. These guys understand that the end goal is winning 16 games.
And you already got injuries.
Yeah, I'm already dealing with a couple of injuries. These guys understand that the end goal is to be winning 16 games in the playoffs. They're not going to worry about winning a whole bunch of games in the regular season. At number 4, I'm going to take the Golden State Warriors. Everyone's trying to call for the Steph Curry MVP run. I'm not sure he'll win that award this year, just because I don't think anybody's going to want to vote for him unless he does something unprecedented. But I think they finally built a decent enough team with Draymond Green and James Wiseman. And I love the rookies they added, Moses Moody, Kuminga.
Their second best player is still going to be Andrew Wiggins, though, probably.
It's going to be Draymond Green. And they brought back Andre Iguodala, although I think he's washed. Jordan Poole, I'm expecting him to blow up this year and have a really, really good 6th man of the year type of season. And they're going to get Clay back. And I think that's the biggest thing. When Clay gets back in December or January, you know that when Steph and Clay are out there, you can trust that those guys are going to be good enough to compete for a title. And I think as long as Clay comes back just decently, he's been gone for 2 years. He just can't come back a shell. If he comes back with any sort of 60% of his ability, I think they'll be fine. At number 5, I'll take the Denver Nuggets. Just because I'm not expecting Jamal Murray to be back that quickly. He tore his ACL technically, but I think over the course of the season, when not everyone has a half a year tape of seeing them without Jamal Murray, they still don't really have anybody to replace him. They just kind of going to elevate Michael Porter Jr. We're going to have to see how his game is developed. And you also have the COVID wild card with him because he's anti-vax. But I think Jokic, as the defending MVP, will be good enough to carry them to a good enough seeding in the Western Conference. And if they get Jamal Murray back, they can steal a round or 2 in the playoffs for sure. At number 6, I'll take the Memphis Grizzlies. They're finally about to get Ja and Triple J back for the first time since they were rookies. Ja's already shown that he can lift and carry this team to the playoffs, and the rare role players all played really, really well for them in proper roles. With Triple J back, now they have that second star type of player who can help complement John Morant. I also think they're really, really well coached. So I expect a really, really good season from them. Memphis Grizzlies at 6. At 7, I'll take the Clippers. I think Paul George. They still have a really talented roster. They just have a gigantic hole at it without Kawhi Leonard. But they expect at some point Kawhi Leonard will play. So while I think the Clippers will be a borderline playoff team fighting for the play-in spot, when Kawhi gets back, when he gets rolling a little bit, I think they'll pick their games up and make a push at the end of the season to get a comfortable spot into the playoffs, but may have to play into the play-in tournament. And number 8, I'll take the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic. It sucks that they still have to be at 18, but I don't really like how their team looks. I think they've degraded. They did not upgrade at the coaching position. They got worse because Rick Carlisle is one of the best coaches in the game. Obviously, it's going to take some doing to see if Jason Kidd is the guy to do that. Is the right guy to replace him there.
Isn't it funny that the Nets and Bucks got rid of Jason Kidd
and got better,
and they're the top of the East?
It's the Jason Kidd. He might be Adam Gase. He might be the Adam Gase of the NBA.
Hey,
so
he'll teach him how to get extra timeouts.
I expect. We'll see if Porzingis can have a bounce back year, but he's been kind of in his feelings. I expect Luka to be very frustrated with the team around him that just isn't good enough. But hopefully they'll figure some things out, and I expect him to dominate the play-in tournament if they ever get there. At number 9, we'll take the Portland Trailblazers. Like the Mavericks, they're another team that has just regressed. We don't know if they downgraded that coach. We'll see about Chauncey Billups. 50-50 on that hire. Terry Stotts is at least a coach who's good enough to get you to the playoffs. But they didn't make any upgrades in the offseason. They're just going to hope that Dame and CJ and Nurkic can all stay healthy for 75, 80 games. And if they do, they'll be in the playoffs. But unfortunately, if you're not getting better, you're regressing. So teams in the West got better. I don't think they did. And at number 10, to round it out, I don't think Greg Popovich is going to go out sad. So they talk about retirement and all that. I don't want to hear it.
They didn't make the playoffs for the first.
They were the 10, and they still would have played in. They still were the 10 seed play-in team, and that's exactly why I'm putting them that this year. Pop, I will always believe in you until you are not around it. Until you show me you can't make the playoffs. So I'll go through it one more time. I'll take the Suns at 1, Jazz 2, Lakers 3, Warriors 4, Nuggets 5, Grizzlies 6. Clippers 7, Dallas at 8, and then the Blazers and Spurs as your playing teams.
Wow. So we've got the same main contenders. It's just the bottom of the West of teams that are pretty irrelevant that we're going to have some indifference about. But so I don't got to go much into it. Moody already hit it on the note. I'm going to go with the same few teams at the top. So I'm going to go 1 Jazz. I think you went with Phoenix.
Yeah.
I think the Jazz are a better regular season team because I think their head coach is better. I think they have a great regular season strategy. I just think they're missing an elite wing that will help you win in the playoffs, and that's why they're great in the regular season, not that great when it becomes ISO possession basketball in the playoffs. At 2, I've got the Phoenix Suns because I think they're going to use the same thing we said about the Bucks, same thing Moody said about the Hawks. They're going to use their previous success from the playoffs last year to jumpstart a good season this year. Probably get out to a good run. Probably another MVP type season. Discussions for CP3 and or Devin Booker, however the media wants to play that. At 3, I'm going to go cautiously with the Los Angeles Lakers just because they're the most healthy of the next group of teams, and they've got the least amount of question marks, and they've got the most talent. So I don't know how the fit works. I don't know how good the coaching will make the fit work, but Russell Westbrook and LeBron James in the regular season is good enough, and they've still got AD. So I expect a big comeback season from AD too. So Lakers at 3, chance to be 1 or 2 if things break right, if they stay healthy and the other teams get hurt. I'll also say that the Jazz and Suns were really, really healthy last year. We'll see how that holds up year to year. At 4, I'm going to go with the Nuggets because I just think Nikola Jokic is a lock for a top 4 seed, and I think they'll be fine with Jokic, MPJ, and some others. Right? Maybe some more from
Aaron Gordon.
Maybe some more from Bol, and some more from Aaron Gordon because they just gave him $90 million. So some more for them. They've become so weak at guard, even though a few years ago they were really deep when they had Malik Beasley and Monte Morris and what's the other guy that was hurt? That's always hurt all the time.
Gary Harris.
The other guy that's hurt all the time too. The more defensive-minded one.
Craig?
No, Barton. Will Barton.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of guards. Now they have Austin Rivers, who they got off the scrap heap last year. So they're gonna need Murray back for a real playoff run. But this is if they were to get a 75 to 80% of what Jamal Murray was showing in the bubble, and improvement from Michael Porter Jr. that I think he'll be having a most improved type of season because of more touches. We saw how great of a shooter he was last year. This could be a real contender in the West. Injuries are really throwing a wrench into everything and letting go of Jeremy Grant. We're not going to let him off the hook for giving Jeremy Grant's money to Aaron Gordon, who's a worse fit. At number 5, I'm going to go with the Mavs because I just want to see Luka versus Jokic in the playoffs, and I think Luka will carry them through the regular season, which is classic LeBron James carry job, but this is the West, and it might be a little bit tougher. At 6, I still believe the Clippers are going to have a good year. I think they have a top 3 coach in the West, maybe a top 3 coach in the league, and I think Paul George is going to be really good enough in the regular season to carry. If Paul George has an MVP type of Oklahoma City season, he'll carry them through the West. They'll be fine. I think we'll see a development from Terrence Mann. Me and Chris were talking about that earlier. Development from Ivica Zubac, and second year in the system. At number 7, it hurts me. I think the Grizzlies are going to be better regular season than the Clippers, but I think their inexperience might get them. In that last week when people are jockeying for position, they might get finesse and they'll fall into 7. But full season from Ja, full season from Triple J. I want to see how good Dylan Brooks really is because he was amazing in the playoffs. Also, do they have Grayson Allen still?
No, Grayson Allen just got an extension with Milwaukee.
So he's on the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be interesting. But Brandon Clark fell off, but he was a really good player 2 seasons ago. He's a really good backup. They did ship off Jonas Valanciunas, who I think might be one of the most underrated players in the league.
Steven Adams is solid,
but they brought in Steven Adams, and it's solid. And luckily, everybody else on their team they have 1 through 4 are all decent, are shooters, as in they can shoot. So that'll be more spacing than playing.
In
with
the
Eric
closing
Bledsoe.
lineup, Triple J will be at the 5. So
yeah. And then at 8, I've got the Golden State Warriors because I just don't think they're. I think they're in clash between 2 spots between contending with Steph, Clay, and Dre. One of those guys being the second best player, coming off 2 of the most devastating injuries, and a team that's got Wiseman, Kuminga, and who's the other guy? Moody.
Mm-hmm.
And Poole, and a bunch of young guys and a few guys left over from the title contenders. None being Kevin Durant, so they could blame Draymond Green for running off Kevin Durant. And at number 9, I'm going to go with the New Orleans Pelicans to finally make some noise, hopefully.
Zion's time starting the season.
Yeah. Yeah. You just want it.
You just want to see Zion do something. That's wishful.
So I'll show respect to the Blazers and give them the Pelicans spot just because I can't. So Blazers at 9, but I think since I'm jumping to the Blazers, I think this is the year the Blazers. I'm going to stand pat. Pels at 9 because I think they have Brandon Ingram and they have Zion. And yes, I don't think they should have let go of Lonzo Ball, but I think they have 2 good enough players to carry them to the damn play-in, unless Zion ain't that or Brandon Ingram ain't that.
They traded away Eric Bledsoe, so you know they're going to get better.
At number 10, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Timberwolves with hopefully to get what we've seen is if you could get a healthy season out of D'Angelo Russell, you could go to the playoffs. With Cat, with Ant,
the Eastern Conference playoffs.
In a bad East. With Cat and Ant, and they got some Cat and
no, that's basically it.
Ricky Rubio's back, I think.
that's basically the player.
Zion, if Cat is supposed to be the player that people make him out to be, I would hope that he can at least take him to the new playoff format they added, so these bad teams with good young players can try to make the playoffs. And that's only because I'm leaving the Blazers out because I think the Blazers will suffer that catastrophic injury that always sets them back. I think this is the year where they fall too far behind because teams like the Pels, the Grizzlies, the Mini, their young guys are made the jump. And I think San Antonio, those days are over. And I just think the Blazers take the fall. And my bold prediction, Damian Lillard is traded by the All-Star break.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's pretty similar, my list, to both of you. We definitely –
the West was easier in my opinion.
We mixed up the last 3 for sure because mine's pretty mixed up too. But I'll go ahead and start from the top. So my number 1, I got Phoenix Suns, of course. Kind of similar to what you guys said. I think just getting that championship experience made them really hungry to want to get back-to-back championships, especially how Chris Paul is. Of course, he wants to ring, try to be the leader of the team throughout the season. But Devin Booker, especially heavy shooter. They didn't give DeAndre Ayton the max, so they'll obviously give him some sort of money, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see how they work that out. That's going to be a problem in the locker room, probably.
Yeah, you know,
He was just the guy that was giving up the plays that cost him the championship. He didn't get plugged. Okay, go ahead.
So my number 2, I got Utah Jazz, just because you know, kind of like what you guys said during the season or during the normal season, they just play outstanding. Just their ball movement, their scoring, especially defensively. Rudy Gobert, you know, we all know what he does in the paint, block shots all day. So, you know, especially my main man Joe Buckets, Joe Ingles, always shooting in people's faces all the time. So it's always exciting to see, you know, that real estate agent giving buckets out. So my number 3, I have Los Angeles Lakers, of course, just because, you know, like you said, you know, the All-Stars do take breaks throughout the season. So Lakers is one of those teams that are just an elite team that doesn't take the main season seriously. So I am excited to see how Russell Westbrook fits in there, just because, you know, being on Wizards for 1 year, he still averaged the triple-double. So that's pretty amazing. I haven't seen that before, but we'll see how the Lakers do with that. And then my number 4, I have the Denver Nuggets. I'm not sure when Jamal Murray's supposed to come back. I think you guys said January.
He tore his ACL in April, so it could be All-Star break, could be not at all. Like
It's in March.
It's late in the season.
We'll find it. It's going to be hit or miss. It's like Klay Thompson, like Kawhi, It's going to be hit or miss. We'll see him when we see him.
Okay, well, I just have them as my 4 just because, you know, with Jokic, especially on the team, being the center point guard, he does run the ball, operates smart IQ. Who else? Bol coming off the bench too. I think he'll be a big piece. Just seeing how he's playing over the preseason, he's been balling out. So I'm excited to see that. Who else? Michael Porter Jr. Obviously, the shooter in the corner. He's always not the best defense, but you know, we'll see next season. So that was number 4. My number 5, I actually have Golden State as number 5. You know, the return of the Splash Bros, I obviously think they're going to be heavy hitters. Jordan Poole coming off the bench. I do like Jordan Poole a lot, actually. Possibly, hopefully, 6th man of the year coming up. But, you know, he's obviously a baller off the bench. I think you guys said Iguodala. I think it's way past his time, but, you know, he'll obviously give good experience, the OG of the team. So.
He's just a coach with a jersey on.
Yeah, he's there to coach with the young guys.
Yeah, that's the best you can, especially to someone like Wiseman. Probably give advice to someone like that. So you always.
And they drafted a couple of young wings. Yeah.
And then that was my number 5. Number 6, I have the Los Angeles Clippers. You know, obviously Kawhi out, they're gonna go regress for sure. But I think who did they trade? They got rid of Patrick Beverley so far.
Oh shit! Yeah. He got traded twice this offseason.
Where he end up? He in Memphis still?
I think
they bought him out already.
Who cares about Patrick? I don't know, but overall, I think I don't think you know. Clearly, Paul George, they're gonna rely on him a lot. But who else do they have?
Reggie Jackson coming off a good playoffs. Kennard was decent. They finally used Kennard after giving him $75 million
and sending him on the bench. The problem is the Clippers are 1 injury away from missing the playoffs entirely because Kawhi's not around. So that's the one they don't have a lot of depth right now. They need all those guys.
2 bad injuries.
They need all those guys. Didn't y'all suffer 2 bad injuries? Didn't we suffer 2 bad injuries? Well, most of the time you just suffer 2 bad injuries.
Injuries happen, you know. Just gotta play with them. But my number 7, I got Dallas Mavericks. Just because obviously Luka is going to be, you know, their main scorer, Luka Magic. You know, it's a shame Porzingis hasn't been playing as elite as he had before. That is what caused the injuries. I think they still have Seth Curry off the bench. Pretty sure. Or
No. Seth Curry.
Seth's in
he plays.
Philly.
He starts for Philly.
Right? Philly.
Yeah, he starts for Philly. They have Tim Hardaway Jr. and Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson's actually really good for them. And they got their player coach, JJ Barea.
Yeah, that's definitely the Lakers, but I still see them as the lower end of the division or of the West, just their team overall. But my number 8, so number 8, 9, and 10 was a tough one just because there's a lot of West teams that could beat those positions.
Yeah, these guys aren't going to matter in the end.
Even though they get a good matchup against the Jazz or the Suns, like they're not going to be playing a championship
I
caliber
don't
team.
think the Suns are a good matchup. Maybe the Jazz.
My number 18 was Portland. Obviously, probably the number 2 best guard in the league, Damian Lillard, is going to be doing his thing. Surrounded by CJ.
Damian Lillard better than James Harden? What's this one to Damian Lillard?
I think he's. No one calls James Harden a point guard, but
He said guard.
Oh, I think he meant
I
point
said
guard.
point guard.
And James Harden. Damian Lillard better point guard than James Harden? He never led the league in assists multiple times.
But you know what Dame time. You know Dame time. But
Until it ain't Dame time.
I do have them competing in the playing game just because, it's Portland, not the best team. They rely on Damian mostly. They're, like you said, Moody, maybe one injury away from being the lower end of this playing division. So,
Yeah.
We'll see how they do. Hopefully free Dame, but I don't know. My number 9 was – this was tough because I wanted to put Pelicans, but I put the Grizzlies instead just because we all know how the Pelicans are. Rely on John Morant. And like you said, Movie, the return of Triple J. So we'll see who that is. Who is their center? Is it still
Steven Adams?
Oh, yeah. Okay. You guys are saying I wasn't sure. So clearly there's going to be a lot of lobs, a lot of dunks. So, like I said, that's the play-in tournament. So that's really up for grabs. We'll see if they make that. And my number 10, last pick, Minnesota Timberwolves. Just because I do like how D'Angelo Russell is with that team. I think he's a great fit. He is the number 2. Him, Anthony Edwards, like you said, with Cat. They're actually the number 1 team, I think, is in the talks for trade value with Ben Simmons. So I'm hoping that happens just because I think he'll be a better fit there than any other teams. But, those 3, I don't see the Spurs in that playing tournament just because, I don't know, they really haven't shown any talent. Like I said, there's a bunch.
They lost to DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
They lost.
Their best talent is Greg Popovich.
How's that
That's the best talent
How's
they
that been
got.
working for them the last 10 years?
They still making the playoffs.
No, they missed the playoffs.
They were in the playing
the year
tournament.
before, though.
They did miss it the year before that, but they were in the playing tournament last year.
Because they invented something to keep them.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so West-wise, we don't even have to talk. It's just funny. I'm just going to point out that I don't think the actual title contenders from the West are either the top 2 seeds.
No.
It's more like I even think like if the Mavs were to be good, they would be a more top-notch title contender than the Suns or the Jazz as well because they have the special player. And Clippers, if they get Kawhi back. So like that's weird that the Western Conference's best 2 teams are just going to be probably good regular season teams and not leaving like Steve Nash's Phoenix Suns teams where it's like that's a really good regular season team. These are just situationally good.
I disagree about the Suns. I think the Suns are legit. They have like a sustainable path to being a really, really good
What is
tier
that
2.
If you're tier 2, you're not championship caliber team.
I mean, they're well, we know there's 3 tier 1 teams. So unfortunately, it's hard to be tier 1 when the other 3 tier 1s he's got 7 of the top 10 players in the league. So it's unfortunate for them, but they're probably the leader in the clubhouse for tier 2, in my opinion.
Which means you need all those top 7 players to get hurt. And
That's what happened last year, and they was in the finals.
And you can't bank on that year to year that everybody else got hurt, so we got bumped up.
Even when you're down 2-1.
So
that's why they get no extension because they saw what Anthony Davis was doing to him in the first round. It was like, whoa.
How about when Giannis gets in the final?
You rolled some coattails.
But yeah, other than that, so we're all split on Golden State. It's gonna be really interesting to see how they come out tomorrow because I just got to see those young guys actually. Like, it's one thing to say young guys will help you win, but they got to teach those young guys how to win. Moody thinks Steph Curry and the Splash Brothers will carry him through, but Klay Thompson, we don't know when he's going to show up, so that's interesting. Disappointed to see Luka and Dame wasting away in Dallas and Portland because these could be Houston-like situations where top stars get disgruntled early and then new head coaches get careers practically thrown away because they're not going to survive that type of situation. But anything else in the West? So Anything else surprising about the West Six? Look out for me and Christian are high that Minnesota might actually show something this year. When you just don't believe in Minnesota showing anything.
I can't.
Former two former number one overall players and a number two overall players. So they have three top three drafted players, and two of them already been All-Stars. So 2 All-Stars and the last number one overall pick before last year.
Yes.
And no chance of making the playoffs. I don't know who
they do have it. I'm not going to say they have no chance. It would be rude. Let's see what Alex Rodriguez, the owner, can go do with the Minnesota Timberwolves. But like nobody on that team is going to play any defense.
Probably
none. Zilch, nada. On a much larger scale than what I think what the Bulls are in the Eastern Conference. I think this is the Western Conference version of the Bulls, but without any defenders. And it's just none of those guys have ever Lonzo's never played in any playoff series. Anthony Edwards has obviously never played in any playoff series. Karl-Anthony Towns has played in one, and that was mostly Jimmy Butler, as we can see now. So it's just
he was terrible against Clint Capella. Don't forget it.
So they have to show me that they are a team that's going to be willing to commit to at least stopping somebody. Because if they're just going to try to go out there and outscore you, D'Lo's deals with injury issues. Cat deals with injury issues. You can't rely on those guys to just be elite on offense for 80-plus games. So
they can be really elite on offense.
So to me, that's their only path to winning is being a top 5 offense in the league, because their pacing is just so ridiculous and they're just so efficient. Because D'Lo has a career year and Anthony Edwards has a career year and Karl-Anthony Towns plays really well.
The talent.
It feels like a lot of things have to be best case scenario for them to even be a playing team. Right. So that's why I struggle with picking them.
So last question, because I'm still debating who I'm going to pick to win the West. Pels versus Mini. So let's pick the situation. Which situation looks brighter, or are they both pretty bad?
I think the Pelicans are a disaster.
Yeah, I
think the Pelicans are a disaster. I don't see a bright future for that. There's no future with them being a successful playoff team with what they have now. It's unfortunate for them because Ingram's an all-star, Zion's an all-star. Those two together should be awesome. But they were awfully coached last year. I really don't know if their coaching has gotten any better this year. It's like they said none of those young guys have ever known to take a team to the playoffs. They don't have any experience doing that. I struggle with, and then now Zion's already hurt to start the year. So you're gonna ask Brandon Ingram to carry a load he can't carry. I struggle. I struggle to see it.
I don't see a bright future for any of these teams. So I mean, yeah, Mini has a chance because they have a little bit more talent. They have a little bit more talent. They have one more piece because they didn't let Lonzo Ball lead their team for nothing. Yeah. So actually, they got back.
Devontae Graham was going to make them even. They're even more inefficient now.
But the
Pelicans are all. No, he's not. He's actually one of the worst shooters in the NBA. He's consistently below 40%. He can't even get you 40%.
He's coming off the bench. Josh Hart.
Period. Not 40% from three. 40% field goal percentage. He came and hit that. He is an awful shooter. So that a team that has no spacing didn't add any spacing.
Before we go back to talking about good teams, Christian, feel free to interject on the on the Pels mini debate, but I'll also throw San Antonio because I do have some young guys on San Antonio, but those are 3 dire teams that are floating in a terrible place in the Western Conference. What do you think's the best?
All these teams are terrible, bad options, but a lot of dumpster fires all around. I just think Minnesota would be the best, just because
the talent
overall. One piece ahead of everyone else, and just their chemistry overall. You can kind of, I don't know, they just kind of click better, but I don't see Pelicans doing good at all next season, just because
their best players hurt already.
Bad coaching, injuries. I don't know. It's just a setup for failure is what it seems like already for this upcoming season. So what other team did you say? Spurs? Spurs just aren't a good team. So
you don't have to be a good team to be in the play-in.
But yeah, I'm going to let Moody go first, and I'm going to let him objectively pick the Western Conference winner. Hopefully he's as objective as I was.
So to me, I think there are 3 teams that legitimately have a chance to win the Western Conference. Number 1, obviously the Los Angeles Lakers. They have LeBron James. They have Anthony Davis. If those 2 are healthy, they're the best team in the West. They'll be in the finals. But the other 2, obviously the Phoenix Suns. They won it last year. I think they're really, really good. And I think the other teams that can contest them are dealing with massive injuries to their better players. So I think they're the second best team in the West by default. They have playoff experience. And I think they have just really, really good basketball players all around. They're really deep. So I think they have an opportunity. If they're the one team I think that could knock off a healthy Lakers team on their best day, not the Lakers' best day. And then the third team I think that could possibly win the Western Conference is the Golden State Warriors, just because of the Splash Brother effect. I think they're the only other team in the Western Conference because Kawhi is out, Jamal Murray, obviously. But Clay is expected back before any of those guys. And I trust Steph and Clay to be able – if Steph and Clay are playing together in a playoff series, that's a problem no matter who they're playing. But I'm objective, not objective. The Lakers are going to win the Western Conference because when LeBron James is healthy and playing in the playoffs, he goes to the finals. And I expect that to continue. I expect
He missed no games last year in the playoffs.
He was hurt. He was still hurt. He was still obviously hurt. So a healthy LeBron, if the Lakers can get LeBron, AD, and Russell Westbrook to the playoffs healthy, nobody in the Western Conference is capable of beating that team 4 times. So I'll pick the Lakers to go to the NBA Finals.
I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna pick the Nuggets to have a Milwaukee Bucks type of season where they're up and down. They get Murray back, a coach that's probably been on the hot seat for some bad playoff moments, gets over the hump. And I'm just because I don't know where this Lakers season is going, and I don't believe this will not, it will not end in a train wreck. So I'm gonna go, and I don't really believe in the Jazz or the Suns. I'm gonna go with the Nuggets because you have to pick some. This was the harder conference pick. I don't even know who other than the Lakers. Someone's gonna contend them, and I think they might be a train wreck because of the craziness of their roster. So I'm gonna just go pick the Nuggets, and I'll probably be wrong anyway because I didn't pick the Suns last year, and I haven't picked anybody to come out the West correctly in a while. So Christian, you could round us up here.
Okay, so this was a tough decision. Just seeing all the good teams, all the great talent. I do have Lakers as my number one. Obviously, the most, best super team on the West as of right now. Filled with hella talent, good coach. I think the only thing that might mess them up, in the playoff run is maybe internal problems. Someone fucking someone's girl. I don't know. There's always injuries.
This LeBron James ran team. You won't hear about that till somebody's traded.
Don't mean it won't cause the effects during.
But as you say in the bubble, LeBron knows how to keep everybody focused on the task at hand, even when someone's fucking his own
because he's 6'8" and gigantic.
Yeah, so he'll keep you in check.
But yeah,
I was just gonna say the only other team I was thinking about that I could say I look forward to seeing is the Utah Jazz. Just because as a healthy team, I think, they'll bring a ton of competition defensively wise. And
when they let Terrence Mann drop 40 on them.
Hey, that could happen to anyone.
Okay, I'll wait to see something. I've never seen anything like it. I'll wait to see something like that again.
We'll see in the future.
Yeah. It's just it's gonna be random. It's gonna be a dogfight, and if the Lakers stay healthy, they'll probably just talent their way through. But yeah, there's lots of injury. There's just a lot of injury concerns here because with Phoenix, my problem with Phoenix is I don't know how much more they're gonna keep getting out of Chris Paul. So that's my only shot at Phoenix, and I don't know how good everybody else would be if you just pull Chris Paul out. Even though I did say they were turning it around before they put Chris Paul in.
I have a quick question for you guys. Actually, we didn't talk about who do you guys have winning the play-in tournament for the 8th seed on the West?
I don't think it.
It's like it's one of those things that I really don't. Whoever's like the best players. So for me, I have the Clippers, the Mavericks, the Blazers, and the Spurs as the play-in teams. If Kawhi's back, I'd pick the Clippers and the Mavericks to find a way to win 1 or 2 games. Because as we saw last year, the teams that won the play-in tournament had the best players, and that's how it goes.
That's really what it'll come down to: who's healthy, who likes their coach. Because don't forget, Indiana just tanked it out because they wanted their coach fired, and it's so hard to predict, and it's so run. Yeah. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter because in the East they're getting fed to the Bucks and the Nets. So I would have the Sixers getting it out. Sixers if they survive. And the Hornets because I like them to finally make an actual playoff push or like get some experience. And on the West, it'd be Golden State because hopefully they don't have to play the Clippers or the Lakers like last year. and the Grizzlies, because I think the Grizzlies are better than they're clearly the best young team of the Pelicans, mini San Antonio.
No question.
So yeah.
Okay.
Since who would you go with, Christian?
On the East, I actually had Knicks as the 8th seed, and then Hornets.
Okay.
Just because,
Yeah, we both have the Hornets.
Yeah, Hornets, being a young team, I see them just fighting for that spot, but, making it. And then for the West, I have Dallas Mavericks and then Portland Trailblazers, just because I do believe in Dame time. Like you said, the team with
And Luka Magic.
Yeah, and Luka Magic.
The team with the players.
Obviously.
All right, so let's go finish it up here with award predictions. So we'll just go award and then we'll go prediction. MVP, I'm going to go easy cop out because I think it's clear to see. I'm going to pick Giannis because he puts up his numbers and the Bucks win the East. There's no way they're going to hand anybody other than him the MVP.
I'm going to take a dark horse surprise type of candidate. I'm going to hand Devin Booker for him to make a massive jump, 30 points a game, 50, 40, 90, go be the number 1 seed in the Western Conference and win the MVP.
Yeah, that's not a bad bet. I didn't see that coming. I obviously have the Greek freak, Mr. Giannis Antetokounmpo himself. Obviously, scoring-wise, unstoppable. Defensively, we saw how many backboard blocks he did in the championship last year. But, it's an exciting year, always staying healthy. No Solomon Hill injury there, so that's always good. But we'll see.
All right, DPOY. Because I know Moody's going to pick the next guy, I'm just going to pick a different guy just to see if I could get my odds of being correct better. I'm going to go with Bam Adebayo because I think if they get Kyle Lowry back, they can make him a better team. And if they're a better team, they'll get more attention and they'll give him more. He's deserved it. Because let's be real, Rudy Gobert hasn't deserved to get 3 Defensive Player awards just by being Rudy Gobert. His defensive metrics we get are going to be amazing in the regular season. But Bam brings a little bit more defensively in movement, like moving out to the perimeter and moving out of the paint. So I'll take Bam to get some recognition for being the underrated player he's been the last few years.
You want to talk about deserve it? The man who deserves the DPOY is Anthony Davis because he's the best defensive player.
He was my original candidate.
That is the best defensive player in the league. And he deserves his recognition finally. Hopefully, if they hadn't cut the season off 2 years ago, I think LeBron and AD would have both left with the award that Giannis had to leave with. But that's besides the point. Anthony Davis, if he plays 70-plus games, which he's done for 5 of the past 6 seasons, it just didn't happen last year. He's going to eat defense without even trying. And I expect his numbers to be fantastic because he'll be playing the center position more. He'll get the opportunity to block more shots instead of having to go chase guys on the perimeter at the 4 spot. So I'll take Anthony Davis for him for DPOY.
If Russ knocks his rebounding numbers down, that'll be bad for his statistic defensively in defensive rebounding.
Maybe, but I don't think it's a problem.
All right, Christian, go ahead. DPOY.
All right. I just want to say, Moody, that's not a bad pick, especially – you've seen the pictures of Anthony Davis looking swole.
Looking swole.
I was thinking about that, but my decision is actually the same as Isaiah's, Bam Adebayo. Just because in Miami, I think, they're going to use him more just to protect the rim, especially with Kyle Lowry. They're going to just set him up as the main defender. He'll definitely have more opportunities to guard the paint overall. But, I just think he does deserve that. We'll see, especially after this season, but you never know. Just from his past experience, I've seen greatness with defense. So
yeah, we've seen the block on Jason Tatum in the bubble
for the win.
Get out of here.
All right, next 6-man award. I went with some homerism, and instead of picking Dennis Schroeder to recoup from that bag that he lost, I'm gonna go with Patty Mills because if Kyrie Irving does miss some time,
he doesn't move to the starting lineup even without Kyrie.
No, I think Bruce Brown.
So James just goes to be yeah.
Okay. So Patty Mills will be perfect for 6-man role on a team that's gonna buzzsaw people. So he'll get extra time when they're buzzsawing people off the bench for those type of games and get the numbers up.
I'm gonna go with Isaiah made a great call with Jordan Clarkson last year. I'm gonna go with another Jordan who's in a similar Jordan Clarkson role, and I'll take Mr. Jordan Poole from the Golden State Warriors. The guy averaged 25 points a game in preseason. I think he's going to be an outstanding energizer off the bench while Klay is out. And then when Klay is back, I think it'll make him even more dangerous. I think he'll be in the final 5 lineup for the Golden State Warriors when they close out games. I think he's one of the best scorers in the game, and I think he's playing with a ton of confidence. So if he, as long as he doesn't start a lot while Klay is out, which is the only way I think he wouldn't win the award, he wouldn't be eligible for it. I think he'll be one of the top 3 candidates at the very end. Jordan Poole.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually thinking about Jordan Poole. That's not bad, but my 6th man of the year was actually Derrick Rose. Just recently.
I had him too. I like Derrick Rose a lot.
Yeah, just his position, and he's at the Knicks now. Being traded from Pistons, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but he was averaging 15 points last year. Just his overall role coming off the bench, I think he'll be a good piece. His IQ, obviously, hella experience. So, with that young team, he's definitely going to.
What a fall from grace. What a fall from grace.
It could have been worse. The fact that he's even like around to be in for these type of he could be out the league, like Allen Iverson. But you see, Derrick Rose gets to win his MVP and stick around.
So instead of racking up MVPs, he has to start up for getting his 6 man.
It's not great. It's not great.
All right, Coach of the Year. I went Homer, super Homer again. Steve Nash is gonna win a Coach of the Year for sure one of these next few years just by sitting on the bench and being Steve Nash, because the team will be a buzzsaw, and they don't give Coach of the Year award out to the same coaches, so they're always looking for the next coach. And Steve Nash put it next to his 2 MVPs.
The problem with Steve Nash is I don't believe y'all even think he's a coach. As Kyrie Irving has made that very clear.
He's not a good coach. I don't think he's a good coach either.
So I think the book's out on Steve Nash. I think everybody, he's just out there
running on KD on James Harden.
No, but I think everyone's gonna. I don't think anybody's gonna believe that Steve Nash has anything to do with it.
It's his offense.
It's Mike D'Antoni's offense, and I think everybody's going to understand that. And so, as much as Steve Nash can win it just by sitting in the chair and clapping his hands, but I think people will understand more effort. And my Coach of the Year pick will be Mr. Nate McMillan from the Atlanta Hawks. The man got fired from Indiana and somehow bounced his way back into taking the team to a conference finals playoff run. I expect the Hawks, with a healthier season, to be even better this year and to move up. I got Mr. 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, obviously, if they pull something like that off. I think Nate McMillan and his impact that he's had on the Hawks franchise will be a big part of it.
Damn. Okay. I actually had Nate McMillan too, but that was my second choice. My first was I always mess up pronouncing his name, but the Celtics head coach, the new one, Ime Udoka.
Udoka? I think it's Udoka.
Yeah. It's actually, as you guys know, it's his first year coaching, but I just think the talent in Boston, just overall, it'll be a great opportunity for him to show his coaching.
Or will he be doing the Steve Nash, standing on the sideline and clapping?
Go, Jason. Good job, Jason.
Good job, Jason. Well,
which is the best coaching you can do.
It was a tough decision for coaching. We don't know. So
you never know. They change the criteria all the time. And Rookie of the Year, which I think is going to be a hard race this year, because I don't think not many of these rookies are getting trust. I don't know yet, are being trusted into a LaMelo Ball type of role where a bad team go be the best player and carry us. But I'm going to take Jalen Suggs because he was my favorite rookie coming out. And I like the situation he is. He's a combo guard, so he could play some 1, play some 2, and he could play off of Mr. Cole Anthony. Hopefully, no jealousy arises and Cole tries to hold him back because he's probably better than Cole Anthony. Or hopefully it's a Luka Doncic, Dennis Smith Jr. situation where Suggs shows up and he shows how much better he is than that guy, even though that guy might be good. And he just takes over and it becomes his franchise. But Jalen Green would be my second choice, which I think he'll be your guys' choice.
Yeah, I like you said, I like the other Jalen, Mr. Jalen Green. I think he's going to be in Houston where they're obviously going to trade John Wall. His only competition for shots is Kevin Porter Jr. And I think they're going to move on from Kevin Porter Jr. pretty quickly. Not in terms of on the roster, but in terms of his role as the dominant ball handler on the team, I think Jalen Green shows up and he's the number one option immediately. And he's going to show why he has this amazing talent. He played in the G League, so he's already played against professional NBA type of talent and an NBA type of coaching. I think that would give him a head start. He's got the highest athletic upside, I think, in the draft. And I assume that he'll be putting up gaudy numbers for a rookie.
Christian?
Okay, yeah. So my decisions was the battle of the Jalen's, like you guys. So I chose Jalen Green just because I like his position in Houston, or the position he's in. He'll definitely be the.
It's called the Andrew Wiggins position. Remember that? So my question for you guys is over under 23 points per game for Mr. Jalen Green.
I'll go under. It's hard for a rookie to give you more than that.
I'll go under, but not that much though.
But not by much.
19.
If he pushed it, I wouldn't be surprised.
I think
it might be on. He might shoot 38, 35, 85, but he can get there.
And lastly, one of the hardest awards to predict because somehow guys like Julius Randle and Hedo Turkoglu pop up every now and again and just randomly have a breakout 8th year in the league. But we've got the Most Improved Award. I can't make a decision, but all I can predict is the award, in my opinion, will go to one of the players that turns the Memphis Grizzlies into that true playoff team. And I'll go Ja as the leader, but Triple J has just as good a chance because I don't think enough people know how good Jaren Jackson Jr. is.
I don't think Ja can win it just because I think people hold him in such high regard.
He might already be so good, but if he has that type of,
he'd have to make like the Steph Curry.
And I
think that if they do that, they're handing him an MVP instead of handing him. I think that's his ceiling for being improved.
He can't just take some strides.
So I think he's more of the Triple J would have the better opportunity just because he's coming from a lower floor. My most improved player is going to be Mr. John Collins from the Atlanta Hawks. I think the Hawks are looking for a guy to come be that second star. I think he has the highest upside on that team he could even be the best player with his athletic profile, with his skill profile. I think he's a better small ball 5, but obviously they don't play him at that position because of Clint Capella. But I think he showed in the playoffs last year that they need him. They need him to be playing well for them to be a really good playoff contending team. If they spend this year getting him more involved to allow him to flourish his game on a team that's actually winning, I think he can win the award. So I'll go with John Collins from the Atlanta Hawks.
All right, Christian, round us up.
Okay, great. For my most improved player, there's obviously a lot of players out there. I went to OG Anunoby.
Anunoby. OG Anunoby.
He's the OG, but he's the young guy.
Obviously from the Raptors. Kyle Lowry out. Pascal Siakam already injured prior to the season starting. I think he's going to be the main scorer as of the beginning of the season. So, him and Fred VanVleet, of course, but I look forward to seeing that. They'll obviously, I don't see them in the top 10 of the East anyway, but I definitely see them directing most of the scoring to him. So.
You could be like Brandon Ingram and win the award without being on a good team. So I don't think that's what it, but I actually really do like that OG Anunoby pick. He's been really good for them for a couple years, and now he's going to be healthy and going to be the number one option for them
whole playoff run.
Yeah, but he still have a championship to remember it by. But I think his position as the number one option on that team, he's going to have a chance to really show his growth. And Nick Nurse is really good at putting those guys who have been in lesser positions to go to develop into stars. And I think OG could be another one of those guys.
All right. And now bonus round, just to see if we can even predict anything, because I doubt any of these predictions come true because these are just so hard to predict. But the last 3 I got are leading scorer, leading rebounder, leading assist getter. So first we'll go with scorer. I'll let you go.
I'll take Steph Curry to be your leading scorer of the season. I think he won it last year, or him and Bradley Beal were duking it out back and forth. And I expected this to be another year, especially with Klay Thompson being out for the first part of it, that Steph's going to have to be pretty nuclear on offense to keep them in it. I think he'll have no problem doing so. He's playing the best basketball of his career, probably. He just doesn't have the same team around him, but that gives him more opportunities to be aggressive. They didn't add anybody who's going to take away shots from him. So, yeah, Steph Curry would be your NBA leading scorer.
Christian? I'm debating between 2 guys right now.
I was debating between 2, but obviously I have to say my man's Bradley Beal. main scorer, amazing, coming off one of the best years of his career last year. Especially Russell Westbrook trading.
No, Free Bradley is. I didn't hear you mention no Free Bradley earlier.
I didn't mention that. Just yeah, that's mine.
Yeah. I will point out Moody made a good point that if Devin Booker did win the MVP, he'd probably have to score, like lead the league in scoring.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to take Jason Tatum because if he's supposed to be that guy, sooner or later he's going to make that jump where he just becomes unstoppable. And he's on the team where there's another scorer, but I don't know if there's for KD's instance, a guy who's going to demand taking the scoring and ball out of his hands enough to stop him from being the leading scorer. But then so we'll go rebounder. I'll take. Has Rudy Gobert led it the last few years?
I'm not sure. I don't really keep up with the rebounding title.
I'll take Gobert because that's what Rudy Gobert do.
Yeah. I like Clint Capella for the Atlanta Hawks. I think he's one of the best rebounders in the league, especially on the offensive end. And to be one of those guys, you got to be great on the offensive glass, like Kevin Love was in his prime.
I have the process, Joel Embiid, clearly one of the best centers in the league, especially off the glass. Rebound dominant, of course. I just think hopefully this will be one of the years he's healthy all year round. So
I wouldn't wait on it. I wouldn't.
It's an 82 game season. If he gets you 65 to 70 games, that's good enough.
Will he ever get you over 75?
I don't think you should. I don't think you. I don't think you need to ask guys to do that. Honestly.
And lastly, who's going to be dishing out the most dimes this year? Russell Westbrook and James Harden have been really and Steph Curry have been trading off this award for a while. Chris Paul sometimes, but I'll go first. I'll take Trae Young. Because I think that's easy. I'll take Trae Young. He'll control the ball enough in the offense where he makes all the decisions. Trae Young or Luka, easily like that.
I'll go with Jokic. I want to see, especially if Michael Porter Jr. can increase his ability as a slasher. He could be one of those types of guys. I don't expect him to get any worse. I expect him to get better. I expect him to get more and more responsibility put on his plate. And especially with Jamal Murray not being around, Jokic could be a guy who, if the guys are making shots around him, he could easily lobs to Aaron Gordon, kick outs to Michael Porter Jr. He's a guy who could easily lead the league in assists.
Backdoor cutters.
Okay.
And Christian?
Who I choose, Mr. Double Circle pass himself, Luka Magic. Just because, of course, we've all seen his passes, his amazing vision, especially being ball dominant. He'll see. They're definitely going to be double teaming him at times, so he'll definitely, whenever he sees the open man, it's amazing, especially the passes he's done. So I look forward to seeing that. But, it's a toss-up. We'll see who the most assists there. There's just so many great passers out there, so especially guard-wise. So
the thing is, the Lakers have two guys who've done it the last 2 years have been the last two assist leaders, but they're going to take that away from each other, so it's hard for either one of them to get it.
And it'll be interesting to see if James Harden
is another guy who can do it because he's the only playmaker, primary ball handler playmaker on that team right now.
But all right, Christian, thanks for joining us. Y'all out there, enjoy the tip-off tomorrow. I'm sure we'll get at least one competitive game, but usually on opening night,
those games will be blowouts.
All right, thanks for joining us, Christian.
Thanks for having me.